Today's guest is a successful business owner who knows how to live a balanced life, but is interested in tightening up on the little details that matter. Welcome to the show, Al.
Thank you, Sybil. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a business owner. I own a delivery company and a furniture store, and I'm also involved in the chamber.
Wow, how do you find time for all of that, running two businesses and chamber involvement?
I try to take the summer off at my lake place and work from there.
Tell me about this lake place.
Oh, it's a beautiful place on the lake. My brother and I purchased it about 16 years ago, and the kids have grown up over there. My niece and nephew have grown up at the lake.
And is the secret to having that place that it gives you that little bit of a balance?
Yes, it definitely gives me a balance.
You mentioned you work from there too, though.
I do. I try to work from there a couple of days a week and commute to work sometimes, but
Right.
mostly work from there and enjoy my 4-day weekends and some time off during the summer.
Now, what inspired you to buy that property in the first place 16 years ago?
Well, my brother and I used to camp in that area all the time by that lake, and we ended up wanting to purchase something, but we wanted to rent. We couldn't afford to purchase. So we went to rent and ended up purchasing it as a recreational property and an investment property. We couldn't afford to have just a recreational property.
Okay, so you bought it for your personal use.
Yes.
But are you renting it out as well when you're not using it?
We are, and we used to a lot more. We're not doing it as much now, but in the beginning, we only used it for 2 weeks.
Wow, so when you originally bought it, it actually made more sense with the rental numbers than just renting a place.
Yes, and we couldn't afford to spend the entire summer there being new business owners. We ended up just using 2 weeks.
Now, looking back, do you think that was a good investment?
Absolutely.
Both financially and personally, or
Absolutely.
which is the winner?
The family. Watching my niece and nephew grow up there. My nephew was 1, he's 17 now. This is all he knows about summer.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And those kind of memories are priceless.
They are completely priceless. I mean, this is all he talks about. It's a great community. He's grown up with other kids in that community, and it's just beautiful watching the kids grow up there.
So what kind of things do you do for fun at the lake?
Water skiing, wakeboarding. This is what he does, jet skiing. And we all do it together as a family. Our parents come out there. My brother, my sister-in-law, niece, nephew, friends, everybody come out there, and everybody's been able to enjoy the property. So barbecuing, it's just a fun place to be.
A little bit of wine?
A little bit of wine, a little bit of beer, maybe a little too much of beer.
But that's your letting go time.
It is. It's a time away from work, and it is definitely a place that I treasure.
Okay, all this sounds very blissful, but there's got to be a little bit of conflict from time and again, isn't there?
You know, nothing too major. Our family gets along really well. You know, the conflict is the kids wanted to inherit the property.
Okay, well, and how do you even find out who gets to use the property? Like if you and your brother are there at the same time, your brother-in-law at the same time, is that okay?
Yeah, it's my brother and my sister-in-law. We all actually are very close, so we can actually spend time together when we're there. And sometimes I'm not there, sometimes they're not there. The good part is my nephew and niece are always there. So they're with somebody all the time.
And how do you decide who pays the expenses? Or do you just share everything down the middle?
We just share everything. We just share everything down the middle. My brother and I usually pay for everything right now. Now the kids are starting to pay for stuff.
Oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it is definitely
Now, what
a
if
good
your
sign.
brother wants to buy a leather sofa and you want a fabric one? Do you fight over stuff like that?
No, he leaves the decorating to me.
Okay, so you're the furniture guy.
That's right.
Well, that's probably smart.
It is, and it's furnished by our company, so it's good.
So if I want to get a good deal on furniture, I should come see you?
You should call me.
Okay, I'll work on that. What's your big question for me today, Al?
It's how do we go about having my niece and nephew inherit the property without too much trouble? We don't really know how to do that properly.
Okay, because it's not always smooth transitioning a property onto the next generation. I'll go through a few tips in just a minute. So don't go away. Top considerations for passing the cottage to beneficiaries after the break.
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. We're here with Al to help ensure a smooth transition of the summer cottage after he's gone. Not that we expect that to be anytime soon, right, Al?
I hope not.
But on that note, Al, I mean, you've got this great summer cottage that you own with your brother and family. What would happen if you did drop dead tomorrow?
Well, my brother would get it right away because he's on the title.
Okay, so you have it set up joint with right of survivorship.
I don't know about that.
And this is a common mistake people make. There's two different types of joint ownership. There's joint tenants in common, which means if you die, then your will dictate who gets your half of the property. If it's joint with right of survivorship, then it automatically transfers over to the joint owner.
Oh, okay.
And if it has to go through your will, probate gets involved. So it's a little bit of a longer process. So if you do want it to go to your brother, if something happens to you, and vice versa,
right,
absolutely make sure, double check the land titles to make sure it's joint with right of survivorship.
Okay, that's good to know.
Now, you eventually want this to be passed off to the kids. That's the ideal situation.
That is the ideal situation.
How old are they?
My nephew is 17 and my niece is 23.
So at 23, great, adult. 17, not quite of age. Hopefully nothing happens to either of you until he becomes of age. But if something were to happen to you both tomorrow, you're going to need a trustee, a guardian to help manage that person's share, your nephew's share. So just something to think about.
Okay.
Do both the niece and nephew want the property?
I know my nephew wants it for sure.
Okay.
With my niece, I think she does, but I don't know. We haven't had that talk.
So this is the most important step. It's a first step when deciding on how to transition a property to the next generation, is to have a family discussion. So often people think that, yeah, wouldn't it be great to leave a legacy and I'm just going to pass it off to the kids or the grandkids or the nieces and nephews, but maybe they don't all want it. And then what you're ultimately doing is you're forcing them to be business partners together.
Yes.
Do they get along?
For the most part, they do. Brother
Okay.
and sister, you know.
Now, with you and your brother right now, do you have a partnership agreement in place?
Not really.
No, and it sounds like you haven't needed one because you
No.
get along really, really
Yeah,
well.
we do.
But for most people, I do suggest having just even a one-page partnership agreement in place, which just outlines the expectations and what happens if one wants out. There should be an exit strategy decided upon, and you can specify a set price that one person would buy the other person out, and then it just keeps it simple.
Okay, that's good.
So then, assuming that both the kids do want the cottage, you're going to have that discussion with them first. You're going to want to make sure that that is clearly drafted in your will and your brother's will.
Okay.
Do you know if he's got it set up in his will already?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I don't think so.
Well, because no one wants to think about dying.
No.
I mean, here you are having fun. You're doing water sports.
I mean, we have wills, but I don't think it's mentioned in there.
Yeah, so you're definitely going to want to look at that and make sure that it flows smoothly. You may also want to consider having some life insurance in place. I don't know if there's a mortgage on the property or not, but when you're passing it to the next generation, keep that in mind and make sure there's some insurance to maybe pay that off.
Okay.
And you've owned it for 16 years. It's a second property. There's likely some considerable capital gains taxes to pay when that transitions.
Yes.
So either have some money aside for that or make sure you've got insurance to cover.
Okay.
So there's a few things for you to think about, and I guess the next step is for you to get started is have a family discussion.
Yes, I think we're going to do that.
Al, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Sybil. Appreciate it.
And stay tuned. Up next, find out what you can do to ensure your kids are financially savvy.